Welcome to Overnight Wisdom, a show where we sit with change makers, artists, business leaders, and thinkers. Each conversation is an invitation to slow down, to go deeper, and unearth the quiet insights that shape who we are. If you're seeking honest reflections, unexpected wisdom, and a deeper understanding of what it takes to not merely survive, but to thrive, you're in the right place. When you think of opera, you probably imagine velvet curtains, grand stages, and perhaps mostly European tradition. But what happens when a Nigerian-American artist steps onto that stage and says, "This is mine too"? Babatunde Akinboboye didn't just find a place in opera, he redefined it. With hip hopera, he created a sound that's positively disruptive, affirming, and deeply human. His journey is about more than music. It's about belonging, identity, freedom, and the courage to take up space without apology. In this conversation, Babatunde opens up about the risks and revelations of blending two worlds, what it means to carry dual identities, and why authenticity, not perfection, is the real measure of success. This is not just an artist's story. It's a lesson in creativity, resilience, and liberation. This is Overnight Wisdom with Babatunde Akinboboye. Hi, Babatunde. How are you?
I'm doing great, Chisholm. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. Thanks for being here with me. Thanks for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
No problem. It's not a problem at all.
Okay, so I'm just going to dive right in. Can you tell us a little bit about the makings of Babatunde? Did you always know that your life was going up the musical arts?
Not at all. Not at all. I had a feeling when I was a teenager, but up till that point, I wouldn't have thought so at all because no one in my family is a musician. No one has really strong feelings about music any more than anyone else, any other Nigerian person. So no, I wouldn't have thought so. But that kind of happened on accident. I was in high school and was introduced to it and fell in love, and I kept going.
That's amazing. Did you want to do something else before?
No, honestly,
No.
I have no memory of any wanting to do anything specific. I think I just was excited about life as a kid and I just wanted to have a good time. That's all I remember. But nothing, I didn't really have any passion for anything until music.
That's lovely. And because you have Nigerian heritage background, right?
Yes, yes. So.
And a lot of us, by the time we're like six, you know you're going to be a doctor or an engineer or like the
Oh,
other two
lawyer.
professions. So I think that's actually really cool. You didn't have that forceful parents trajectory. Nice. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about your artistry. What you do is insanely unique. You've trained in a space that has been very Eurocentric, in other words, white.
Mhm.
When did you see yourself belonging in that world? And what did it take for you to actually challenge it? Because you are absolutely challenging it.
Oddly enough, the answer to your question is your question. I knew that I could challenge it when I realized I belonged in it. I think from the outside, it's very easy to see opera as this elite, separate art form, which is true to some extent because it was very intentionally designed that way, maintained in that way. That being said, just like any other system like that, you can't create it and have it thrive and actually exclude all the people you're trying to exclude. Black people have always been involved in opera in some way, shape, or form. We've been in the histories. And so when I learned that and I started learning about some of the other great opera singers like Leontine Price or Marian Anderson or something. Yeah, just these great voices that were black. I realized that they excelled, not because they were black, they were just excellent. And I realized that, okay, that there's a place for us here. And then more recently, I learned about how many opera competitions were being won by these black South African singers. And it's just became apparent that this art form may have originated in Europe, but it's a wonderful export.
It is, absolutely. I was listening to one of your performances on YouTube, and then you started doing that thing where you're singing opera and you're rapping at the same time. And I was
Mhm.
just like bopping. And I think, as much as from the outside looking in, from a musical perspective, opera is not the most accessible for a lot of people. And I think you've been able to, from what I see, married to so where even younger people, Gen Zs, are like, yeah, I can roll with this. I can rock with this because there's a vibe to it, but still holding on to the integrity of opera. So I think what you're doing is, fascinating in that sense. And I do have a question around the intersection of opera and hip hop, at least from my view. I think opera requires there's a stiffness, so to say, to opera. And then hip hop is more raw and in your face. How do you navigate that tension between the eliticism and the
Mhm.
perceived elitism of opera and the accessibility of hip hop in your work? Is that something that you think of?
Fortunately, I don't have to think of it consciously too often. It's very
Mm.
organic for me. I came to opera much later in life as an adult. I didn't have my first opera voice lesson until I was in my 20s. And so it made it easier for me to maintain an outside perspective of opera while still going through the opera training and learning all of the insides. I was able to learn the rules so I could break them correctly,
Mm.
and because I've been a big hip hop fan, coming to opera, I'm learning opera through a lens of the music that I already know, which is hip hop. And so it made it very easy to just see the relationships between the two. And because they live in me so organically, I love opera, I love hip hop, and it fits inside me. It made it easier for me to just perform it the way it feels good for me.
I love that. I love that. When was the moment when you first thought, I can create something new? I can bridge this too.
Oh man, it's funny. I think the reaction I had more accurately would be described as when I realized that I have been bridging the two. Because
Mm.
playing with opera and hip hop was something I had been doing on my own for years. I tell a lot of people when I had to learn my first opera role, I had to memorize this part of the opera, and it was kind of difficult for me until I started singing it over a hip hop beat and memorizing it that way, and it stuck. And so since then, I've always had some sort of fusion. And so when I recorded it and put it out and showed people, and everyone said it was great. And they said, "Can you do it again?" And I said, "Can I do it again? I've been doing this for years." And I realized that I guess I've been making something great. Okay, I'll keep sharing.
Hmm. Hmm. Very cool. So you've been doing hip hop and opera at this intersection. Hip hopera, which is this genre that you have created.
Mhm.
Can you take us back to the moment of origin?
I think it was December 2018. I posted a video of me singing Figaro's Aria, the Figaro, 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 over the beat for Kendrick Lamar's Humble. I posted online, and it went very viral. It was my first viral video. And so many comments of people coming up with names for it. And I'm somewhat of a clever guy, and I like to come up with witty, clever names and play on words and puns and so on and so forth. And so some of the comments in there were like rapra, hip hopera. I'm obviously Nigerian. I'm Yoruba. And Yoruba people, when we have our children, we don't typically name our kids immediately. We meet them, we get to know them, spend some time, and after some days, we'll know what their name is. And I feel like that was kind of the process with this art form. Its name was already there. I just had to meet it, and it was obvious. It's hip hop and opera. Hip opera, obviously. It's as
Hmm.
simple as that.
It's so cool. I mean, it sounds simple, but I can also imagine all those people online going rap opera or something. But then when you put it together, it's like, it's a no-brainer, of course.
Right.
It's what it is, you know? Huh. Have you seen that in terms of adoption? Have you seen that the younger generation in opera are also trying to kind of like emulate what you've done, bridging hip hop and opera?
Interestingly enough, I have not. I thought because I've been doing this for a few years now, I thought by
Hmm.
now I would see more attempts. There have been a few instances, but I wouldn't say it's catching on. and or
Hmm.
anything like that yet, which is it's interesting because I enjoy what I'm doing and there's the excitement of I'm the first one, I'm the only one doing hip opera like this and this way and having this kind of success and it's great. However, I would really like to be able to do some duets and have colleagues and all the possibilities that can come from this becoming more of a genre instead of a thing I'm doing, you know,
Hmm.
becoming more of a movement, if you will, a culture.
And it's a much needed one because I think it amplifies that work to more people. I think Gen Zs, I think Gen As, but honestly, even millennials. For a lot of us, I don't think people just hang out and go, yeah, let's go to the opera. But then if I know I'm going to see hip opera, of
Hmm.
course, I'm down. Let's do it. Hopefully, we see more of that in the coming years.
I think
Yeah, cool. Okay, so I have a question around fear, especially when you're doing something new,
Mhm.
or even potential rejection. Oftentimes we see that artists told to stay in their lane, what are you doing crossing over? And here you are mixing two things that were formerly inconceivable of being like on the same path. Did you have to overcome any type of doubt or fear or worry, or were you always just like, nah, I'm doing this?
Fortunately, no, I didn't have a lot of doubt or fear or worry. It was something so organic to me and something I'd been
Mm,
doing internally for so long that the experience I had was I let people see it and they thought it was great, but it was never a thing that I created for people. I created it
mm,
on my own and I liked it. And I think
mm,
me being the first audience member, if you will, realized like, oh, this is good, and I let other people see it, and so I knew how to make more of that good stuff, is do it the same way I did before, make stuff I enjoy, and so
mm,
I just keep doing what I enjoy and letting people see it and watch it, and because it's not created from an external or for an external reason, it's just an internal thing that's coming out. It makes it so much less worrisome, fear ridden.
mm,
The goal is completely different. How you
mm,
measure it is completely different. There's not a lot of people who are nervous about how they're brushing their teeth. You know, it's the way you
mm,
brush your teeth. It is how you do it every day. And if someone watches it, you're not really concerned, am I doing it incorrectly? You know, this is the way I do it, and you get to see it. And
mm.
I think for me, it was similar.
I love that. I think this is something a lot of artists and people in general can reflect on in terms of whether you're a musician or writing a book or doing something else. You need to love the thing you're doing and write for yourself or play for yourself and not focus on somebody else's gaze because then you might have to start adapting that for another gaze, whereas you can be producing something that is uniquely yours as you have done.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I really like that. You talked a bit about, you put this out into the world and it went viral. What was it like going viral? Because I know the uproar positively was great, right? Did that feel like validation? How did that feel?
It felt very validating. I tell people often when I put that first video out, I didn't post it on my professional Facebook, which I had for my opera post and so on. I posted on my personal Facebook because I didn't want the opera people to see it. I just thought some of my friends would find it entertaining. And so when it went viral and everyone loved it, it felt extremely validating. Okay, this thing that I thought was cool, people strongly agree. And I realized it was disruptive to some extent, but it honestly very much always felt like the natural evolution of
Mm,
the art form because I talk to some of my colleagues about this when they talk about how untraditional what I'm doing is, and I say actually what I'm doing is quite traditional. Opera has a centuries long history of the art form evolving in relationship with the popular music at the time. And this is just more tradition.
I'm curious in terms of if it's you're doing something traditional, I'm thinking about because when I was researching for the session, I also saw you had done a rendition in Nigeria with Afrobeats.
Hmm.
And I'm like, oh, okay, I want to know what that sounds like. And then my question for you is how do you merge it? How do you decide what to show up as? And to what degree does like Afrobeats, for example, impact your work?
Well, so with opera and classical music, I almost always hear it with a beat in my head. almost every single time I find the beats and there's little breaks from it, but it always comes back to some beat. That's the way I've always related to it because I think that's how I first came to it. Like anyone coming to something new from a way they used to do it, they anchor themselves in what is familiar and they work from that point. And so it was always easy for me to feel and hear the beats. I grew up in Lagos and moved to the US before Afro beats really became
Hmm.
Afro beats. But I was there for the beginning of it, like early Nigerian hip hop, Weird MC, Junior and Pretty,
Yeah.
right? And so when Afro beats became a thing, I was in the US when I heard Afro beats, but it felt like riding a bike. I felt, oh, this is my music. It's funny when I've been listening to so much hip hop up until that point, and to just jump right into Afro beats as if I had grown up with it. It was great. Afro beats feels organic for me, and so
Hmm.
it's very easy now for me to feel the relationship between because pretty much all music, it's just notes and rhythms.
Hmm.
And so there's overlap.
Absolutely, absolutely. So when I perceive you, and so I won't speak for the world, I
Mhm.
think there's something, I don't know if the word is empowering, but more positively disruptive that you are a Black man in this
Mhm.
space. And of course, for me, there's that added caveat. I'm Nigerian, and then
Mhm.
you are a Black Nigerian man
Mhm.
in this space. That feels like hallelujah, You haven't agreed to this way I perceive you, but a lot of us perceive you like this. Do you
Mhm.
feel a weight carrying that responsibility of being African and Black into the opera spaces? Or how do you resist the pressure from the external gaze?
Oh my gosh. I think I'm having a very, very different experience. Um, in my mind, I belong in those rooms.
Hmm.
And there are a lot of people in those rooms who aren't aware that a Nigerian person belongs here amongst us. And so it is a little amusing for me when I'm in those spaces to see their confusion and their loss. And it's just like, you'll be okay. You'll be okay. But very much, I'm in this space to do what I'm there to do. I'm a performer. I belong in this space. Most of the people that have strong opinions about whether or not I belong there, I don't really see them as an authority. Because if they were an actual authority, they would already know that it's normal for me to be in this space. And so
Hmm.
there's no pressure from the external gaze. It's really more, at worst case scenario, it's amusement, honestly. Um,
Yeah.
I'm having a blast. I'm having a
Yeah.
great time. I know there's some people that are bothered by my presence, but honestly, it just makes the whole thing a little more fun for me.
Yeah, I love that. I think for me, listening to you talk, I'm like, yep, it takes a Nigerian to just like, yeah, I belong in this room. It's mine. I mean, that's how we're made, right? It's just like, I'm not here to ask for permission. This room belongs to me. Thank you very much.
Thank
You're
you. Thank you
welcome.
for recognizing it. Thank you. Yes.
I love it. I love it. Okay. What do you think it will take for the world to fully catch up with your vision?
I think, and I found so far that all they need to do is just see it. They just need to see it. And because I think the world has been ready for this music.
Hmm.
I think every instance that we've had of like, have you ever seen the movie The Fifth Element?
Mm-hmm.
Of course you have. And everyone remembers of the top three things they remember the opera singer that sang the kind of like the pop techno beat because it spoke to so many people. There was something about it, this juxtaposition of upper class and lower class or exclusivity and accessibility. I feel like music is healing, it can be medicine, it can be therapy, or at the very least, I think of it as a massage for your soul. And I feel
Hmm.
like there's been a few spots that music has been missing. Where you have music for this, music for that. There's no music for this. And I
Hmm.
think the world is ready for that. And I think it looks like based on the reaction and the response and the reception every chance I get to perform this that I'm on the right path.
Absolutely. So your album, you're recording an album now, right?
I've been working on an album for a few years, but I'm finally at a point of momentum where I have all the pieces I need. I'm working with some of the best people I've had access to ever. Yeah, it's exciting.
Okay. Nice. I think that's definitely one way for the world to see it. So we can hear you at home, at work, in the car, everywhere.
That's the plan.
Yeah. Looking forward to it. Okay. I want to ask a little bit around navigating the spotlight. I know we've talked about your work but also just in general, you are a public figure, whether you want it or not. How do you navigate the tension between how do I create for my soul and how do I create for the algorithm?
That, fortunately for me, I took the time to figure that out for myself pretty early on because when I went viral, it was overwhelming. I did not expect to. I was never trying to go viral. I'm a performer. I like attention, but I was not prepared for this.
Hmm.
And so, as a performer, especially as an opera singer, I'm used to stepping into all these roles. Whatever role you need me to step into, I can do that. But with this kind of reception and reaction, I knew that it was something that I wanted to continue doing. I liked the being able to create this art that for the first time in my life, I felt like I was creating organic art from
Hmm.
myself and my experience instead of trying to recreate the ways that the greats have done it before. So suddenly I had this influx of followers, and I knew that I wanted to keep it going. I wanted to continue this exchange of, "You like my art, I want to make it so you can continue to enjoy it." But I didn't know how I could be, which character I needed to be for all of these different people and all these different platforms and in real life and the opera world. And I realized the only way I was going to be able to make this sustainable and consistent was it just has to be real. It just has to be organic. I just have to be myself. And so, fortunately for me, I got into this mess by being myself. So it gave me a little confidence to continue trying that. And I just kept leaning more and more into myself. And fortunately, because of the way these media algorithms work, it's really good at putting me in front of other people like me that can relate or want to hear what I have to say. I realized that essentially the only way to keep doing this and make it last is to just be me. And it's made it easy to be, when you see me in public, you're going to see the same guy you see online. If you hang out with me, it's going to be the same guy. And people keep saying, you're just being yourself. When you come to my shows, you see me on stage, it's just like, you're just being yourself. And that's the only way I can keep this going. A lot of what I think is special about this is the accessibility of an art form that is thought to be inaccessible. So it I think it's only makes sense for me to be me, and I'm a pretty approachable guy.
I remember when we chatted, I thought, oh, he's exactly like I imagined from his post. I've been following you since I think 2020 pandemic era when I thought, oh, I'm not sure why I expected something different because it's that cool, calm, collected. Like I'm gonna just toss out the truth radically and just hang out here like nothing.
Yeah.
And I really love that. And I guess, but there's always that thing about, I'm Nigerian. I know Nigerians. And I can testify or attest to there's that sense of easygoing, approachable, pretty calm, actually. I really appreciate that as well.
I've learned I spent a lot of years in the opera world training myself to be reserved and focus all of that onto the stage. So when I'm
I
on the
see.
stage,
Yes. The person comes out. I see that. And that's the switch, right? It's like, because I've watched a couple of videos as well. And you start out and then this whole personality, like when Beyonce had her Sasha Fierce era, it's like just a completely different person on
yeah,
stage. I love
yeah,
that. I love
yeah.
that. Okay. So I know I'm asking a Nigerian this question. So I have to preface it by saying, I know that oftentimes we are wired to not even think about success or failure or risk. You just do it, you pivot, you try until you get it right.
Mhm.
But I do want to ask you, has your success changed how you view failure or risk?
Yes, well, absolutely.
Okay.
Because I don't worry about failure anymore. Often I like to think of life like a video game. And so the reason I did this, or one of the reasons I did this, is because someone asked me at some point, like, when will you be successful, or what will success feel like? So I was thinking, if this were a video game, become a hip opera performer. If this were a game, I've done it. I've hit that point. I've performed on stage. People know who I am. And so in my mind, I'm successful. I've
Hmm.
done it. I've achieved it. I've won the game. Now, everything else I do is a side quest, is optional. I can completely change lives if I want to. I can move to a small village and be a fisherman for the next 10 years. Like, what I feel like I came here to do, I've done it. Now, I can, much like someone finishing a video game, now they can go back and play it and try and unlock all the different achievements and so on and so forth. And so that's what I'm doing at this point. So yeah, I think it's it's definitely affected the way I feel about fear and failure.
I love that reflection because for me, what is coming up is the importance of recognizing what we've already done, being in the moment, celebrating that, knowing, of course, we can do more, but for the now,
Hmm.
that self love. I know I wanted to say radical self love, but there's nothing radical about it. But that self appreciation of, I've done it. And
Hmm.
now I can choose to amplify it, or I can go hang out in a village and fish.
Right. Or you can stay the same. You can stay, I've
Yeah.
done it. I'm good here. I don't need to continue to
Hmm.
move up. You get to choose how you play your game.
I love that. I love that. Babatunde, opera and hip hop, one of the things that they have in common for me is they're about storytelling, they're about emotion, and also about presence. What has the stage taught you about yourself that you could not have learned anywhere else?
Think the stage has taught me that there's nothing wrong with me.
Ah.
I think so it's funny you describe me as calm. I feel like okay, I've achieved that as well. I can play that trick because as you know, Nigerian people can be very expressive people.
Hmm.
Growing up, I was expressive for a Nigerian person.
Mm.
Big, big personality all the time.
Okay.
Like if I walk in a room with a bunch of Nigerians, you remember that I was there.
Okay.
And so regularly being around people who tried to get me to relax, to calm down, it was just something I became very used to. But
Hmm.
on the opera stage, these opera characters, they're larger than life. And I'm supposed to whisper to this person here on stage. However, the person in the top balcony in the back has to be able to hear me. That's
Hmm.
my playground. I like that. Like, okay, yeah, that like we whisper and everyone can still hear. Like, this is where I play. You can't do small gestures in opera because not everyone has opera glasses to be able to see. A secret handshake in opera looks like a much bigger thing and it's a wonderful place. So being there and being in a space where I can fully unfurl my wings, for lack of a better phrase, and people paying me to do it again, it kind of showed me that it that I am the way I'm supposed to be. And there are
Hmm.
some people in some spaces that n- not have been uncomfortable with how big I am, and that's fine. I think understanding that being in spaces, especially now where I'm not just an opera character that's larger than life, I'm a hip hop character. And hip hop characters, they're all larger than life as well. They all have these operatic personas and stories and lifestyles and so on and so forth. So yeah, I can just be as big as I want to. And I know that that is how I'm supposed to be.
Absolutely. I mean, stay big. Usually I think like if somebody is mad, they can stay mad, you know?
Yeah, it's a lesson I've learned. It took me a while to learn, but I got there.
Hmm. Glad to hear it. If your art could teach one lesson to the next generation of creators, what would you want it to be?
That you are right. You are the authority.
I love
Other people
that.
may have their thoughts, but they're not the final word on what your creation and how, on whether it's good or not. Do you like it? Then cool, put it out. Because if you like it, someone else is gonna like it too. And in my opinion, the goal of music, its intended purpose is to make people feel something. And
Yes.
when you've done that, now it is good music.
Yeah, yeah. Such great advice. I love that. What is the greatest risk, if you can share, you have taken in life that had nothing to do with music? Not that music was a risk, because you said it was kind of innate.
I would say, even though I recognize it was the best way to go about it, it felt like a risk. The idea of being authentically myself publicly and just
Mm.
open and honest about all the things I am and do and have done and will do. Because, you can't retreat. When you're a character, people can say what they want about the way you present in that way. And it's not actually you, but when you're you and you put it out there, especially as I'm the kind of artist where I'm sensitive.
Hmm.
Believe it or not, I'm sensitive and I take everything in. And
Hmm.
so to put the risk of essentially like taking my heart and saying like, all right, guys, here it goes. And just let it have at it in the way that felt honest for them. And for someone like me, that was risky and it was absolutely worth it.
I love that. I'm reflecting on even for me in my work, I have a very public facing work and I'm often grappling with how do I show up here today? Knowing fully well that in the spaces that I hold and I organize, how I walk into that space gives everybody else the permission to be themselves. And I think that's what you've done beautifully is I'm coming as me. And I think once you're able to do that and it's so authentic and you can see, like you're not trying hard to be anything else, you're
Exactly.
just you. And I think that is, at least for me, as someone who follows your craft, it's permission. Like, okay, you can just be yourself. You don't have to, it doesn't have to be glossy, it doesn't have to be anything else but who you are. So I think that's something you've done quite successfully. So yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's amazing. Okay. So I think I heard or I read somewhere that you perceive music as a way of telling the truth. Did I misunderstand that?
That may have been something I said. I tend to just speak really honestly and out loud so I don't remember it, but I
Okay.
agree with that statement. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So I want to ask you a question around with your art. So you've talked about for younger people who are coming, or for you as well, just knowing that you were right, you were enough. Is there any other truths you're trying to tell through your art?
Uh, Yeah, in the classical music world, I've found that one of the things of hindering its growth and evolution is the fact that they don't let classical musicians be amateur. Once you pick up a classical instrument or start studying a voice, you're expected to continue. It's as if you stepped onto an escalator and you're expected to continue to progress and go upwards. And you could be playing the violin for 7 years and you played pretty well. And still, people are going to advise you to get lessons to get better. However, if you pick up a guitar and learn 4 chords, you can play the same 5 songs forever. And no one says that you're not a guitar player. No one asks you
Mm,
when are you going to get better. They let you be where you are. I'm a really good opera singer. I'm not in the top 5% of great opera singers in the world, especially for people who are trained in opera. You'll hear little mistakes and things I do, and I intentionally leave them in my recordings and the performances and the videos because I want people to know that perfect music isn't what good music is. Good music is good music. And so
mhm,
I'm making my music and it's making people feel something. I just did what felt true to me because so many, especially like with Black classical musicians, so many of them at some point, they've mixed whatever classical piece they're working on with some music that they grew up with, some music that they play at home, and just to amuse themselves. And it gave them a little more joy than that music did on its own. And I'm just telling people that that joy you felt, feed that. That's the direction you should be going, and you share that with people, and then you'll be making good music. You'll be touching people, and I think essentially the truth is good music, not correct music.
mm, Yeah, great insight. I love that. I'm also thinking about, I mean, you can have a perfectly written speech, but oftentimes the best kind of speeches are the ones that, you know, deviate a little bit from that perfection and they
Hmm.
touch the soul. At least that's what's coming up for me, and that in and of itself makes it perfect because it's
Hmm.
real, it's human, and it's
Exactly.
again relatable,
Exactly.
You talked just now about how Black classical music players might still experiment at home with other kind of music that they love. I know that you're very steadfast and firm in your identity, your Nigerianness, your Americanness. But I wonder, has there been any moments, maybe not now, but even growing up, where your identity felt both like a gift and also a burden in this specific space and in your creative journey?
Yes, for a lot of my growing up, it felt like a burden all the time in every space because I was born in the US. When I was maybe 6 or 7 years old, moved to Nigeria for the first time. then stayed in Nigeria till I was a teenager, and then came back to the US. And so I spent a lot of my life not feeling Nigerian enough, not feeling American enough, and I felt like I was always in the wrong place. I was never where I belonged because I felt like I didn't belong anywhere. And so there were a lot of times I just felt uncomfortable being anywhere. I guess part of the transition, I got used to the feeling of I'm not going to feel like I'm like anyone else in this space because I never have, and I don't think I will. I was having a conversation with an older Nigerian man who was saying, he's like, you know, you're a Nigerian, and you know, someone, a black person in the U.S., they're like disconnected from their roots. It's different, and I had to remind them. I said, listen, because he says you're connected, Babatunde, I can trace your lineage back like 1,000 years, and I said halfway before you get that 1,000 years, I'll have the same relation to that person as someone who was born and raised in Virginia. And so I realized that essentially um, I am Nigerian and I am American. And my reality is true in both of those spaces. Like there are many Nigerians who are, you know, Tokumbo is my name in Yoruba. It means born abroad. There's a name in my language, in my tribe for the people who are born in my, like, I belong. There's a space for me there. And in the US, you know, don't get me started on the story of black people in the US. And, you know, even if you live in New York, you take a black neighborhood in New York, you're going to find someone whose family is from Georgia, someone else whose family is from Kingston, Jamaica, and someone whose family is from Lagos. But all of them go to the same school, they talk the same, and they wear the same clothes, listen to the same music. And the US is a nation of immigrants. So I realized essentially that, oh no, I belong everywhere I go. And it gave me not even the permission, but just the awareness that who I am is not a hindrance. Dual sense of identity became almost like having two passports. It's like, yes, I belong here, and I can move in between them freely. And
I love
so no
that.
one sees two passports as a hindrance.
No. It opens a lot more doors than one.
Exactly. Exactly.
I grew up, I spent a lot of my formative years in the US, but I had that Nigerianness just like pounded into me. So, but now I also identify as someone who spent their formative years in the US, also identifying as somebody who has inherited my Nigerianness, and I love that. And then all the other places I've lived in the world, they're part of me. Now I'm also Norwegian, you know, like that is a part of who I am. And
Right.
then basking in that is also very important.
Very much. Very much.
I want to ask you about freedom. I know you've kind of talked about just the
I love talking
innate-ness.
about freedom.
Yeah, okay. All of this was very innate to you, you know, like you didn't feel like you were shaking any particular tree intentionally. You were just sharing with the world who you are. How do you view freedom?
I think for me, I realized that how this has changed freedom for me is for a lot of times, especially as an opera singer, I felt caged. I felt trapped. I felt I was limited because in order to do opera correctly, it needed to be this way, which wasn't right for me. And I essentially learned that as a human, just a species of my animal, our natural habitat is a free habitat. Like we thrive in freedom. I had to recognize how much control I had over my art. You know, I'm trained in opera so long, everything I sing sounds like opera. I realized like, okay, this is my voice. How I do in the privacy when I feel the most free, take that and put that out there. Where I felt the most free, I had to recognize that this is the truest version of myself and then take that and put that out. And so for me, I felt freest when I was alone driving in my car. And so I had to take that version of me and put it out. And once I took that version of me and made it my outside personality, I was now free everywhere I went.
I feel like there's so much a lot of us can learn from that. The other day, a friend of mine sends me a message. She's like, there's something she's trying to do and she's trying to put it out on social media, and but it feels so existential. She doesn't feel like anyone else will get it, but it's authentic to who she is. There's that fear, you know, the do I do this or do I dilute myself or compartmentalize myself in the version that I think the world wants to see. And what I'm hearing from what you're telling us is just go for it. Feel that fear and do it anyway.
Absolutely. And not because the people have always said that to me, feel the fear, push through the fear, do it anyway. I'm like, that sounds like such hard work. Is there not a better way? And I realized essentially that what I'm actually looking for requires me to do the scary thing. Meaning, one of my favorite phrases I learned recently, someone said that authenticity is polarizing. That you, just like a magnet, the more real you are, you will repel those who are not for you, and you will attract those who are for you, which is the way it's supposed to be. And the key part of that was that if you operate in a way where you are liked by everyone, you'll be loved by no one.
Yes, I'm gonna sit with that one.
That's a good one. It's like if you're liked by everyone, then you're probably loved by no one. You have to repel some people to find your
Your
people.
people.
Because I think a lot of us grow up, especially we all grow up in this Western culture for one reason or the other, where we have this understanding that you are supposed to be liked by everyone or else you are doing something wrong. And that is not human. There's no food, there's no music, there's no time of day, there's no temperature of water. There's nothing that is real that is liked by everyone. And
Hmm.
so if it's liked by everyone, it's probably made up.
Yeah, yeah. Such good advice.
So we need to make sure we're real too for our own benefit. So I think of ourselves in a lot of ways just like plants. Put us in the right environment around the right plants. It doesn't even have to be the same plants, but just the right kinds of plants, the right environment that's healthy, sunlight, good soil, nothing toxic or no trash, so you grow. I think that is it's our priority to ourselves. And so that requires weeding. But
Hmm.
but it looks bad to rip weeds out of the ground, but no, that's how you stay healthy.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm also reflecting on it's also good for our mental health. I tell the story sometimes of when I first moved to Norway, and it's such a conformist country.
Hmm.
And for the first 6 months, I was trying to conform to it, and I was slowly getting depressed and clinically depressed. When my coming back to wellness required a hard conversation. Who do you need to be in the space? And the only person you need to be to come out of this is yourself. No one else has to like you. You have to like you, and that has to be okay. And I think there's something there that is very powerful. At least that's coming up for me hearing you talk about this is I have to be enough for me, and then my people will find me.
Very much.
Babatunde, in when people encounter your art, what do you want them to feel about themselves?
When people encounter my art, I want them to feel validated.
Hmm.
Okay, this is what I've gathered from a lot of people. When they hear my art and they hear it, there's a feeling of like, I was right. I did want this. Or I did like classical music. I just didn't like some elements of it. There's some sort of correction, something heals. And I want them to continue feeling that, whether it's like it gives them permission, it just validates them, it feeds some part of them that they recognized needed to be fed. I want them to have that honest experience. Even if they don't like it, I want them to realize and have that aversion. Like, have a real emotion. Yeah, it's funny. I say I want my music to touch people, but it does. It
Yeah,
already
yeah,
does, and I know it will continue to. So I'm
yeah,
just glad that it does. I'm
yeah.
enjoying watching it happen, and I will continue I'll continue to keep upsetting the people that are uncomfortable with what I'm doing.
Yes, do it. One of the things, just for me, how I experience your music is it's not possible to be neutral. You're either going to love it or you're not, but you're going to feel something very strongly for it. And I think that's really, lovely. And that's kind of like something you've unlocked. Listening to you talk about the feedback you've gotten from other people around it, feeling like a validation.
Okay.
For me, what it does is it affirms, that
Hmm.
affirmation around go be you, go be different, go shake the freaking tree,
Absolutely.
go chart your own path.
so to say. So I guess maybe there's an overlap in some sense with validation, but also just that affirmation. Like, yes, you can go do the thing. Who cares if it's been done like this for 500 million years? You
Right.
know, go disrupt it if you must. And it doesn't need to feel like a disruption. It just has to feel authentic. So I think for me, anyways, like I find your work very affirming.
Thank you. Thank you. I also want to add that it's not so much just that it needs to feel authentic and not disruptive. I think it's I think it's the only way to successfully continuously do it. Like forge your own path, blaze your own trail. I'm not a trailblazer. I don't know how to lead a movement. I don't know how to create a genre of music, but I know how to play. I know how to entertain myself in a car. And so I can just keep doing that and staying true to that publicly. And oh, there's a trail being blazed behind me. Okay, cool. If I start thinking about trailblazing, I'm gonna have to incorporate skills that I don't like. I need to learn how to read a compass now. How do you do this? How do you create? How do you pioneer? I don't know how to do that, but I have to focus on what is authentic for me. It's like I know how to do what I've been doing, and I just need to keep
Mm.
doing that harder.
I think that's what it means to blaze a trail. So you're doing it.
Apparently, thank you.
So where do you see hip opera in 10 years?
Oh man. In my dreams, I see it as like a movement. There are like dozens of hip hop artists, and they're being hired all over the world to perform uh, for concerts, these social events, for sporting events, and so on and so forth. And then I see operas coming out, new hip operas, like fully staged operas. Maybe they're reimaginings of old ones, new versions with new stories of like real people today that are thrilling. I see sellout shows. I see lines around the block. I see like a culture, like a movement, much like one of my favorite things about hip hop is how inclusive an art form it is. They talk about the five elements of hip hop, or I guess in simplest form, there are a lot of people that we can think of that we relate to hip hop that are not musicians. And because there's so much like culture to hip hop, like the dancers, graffiti artists, all kinds of visual artists, they're all hip hop artists. I would like a culture like that around this fusion of classical music and modern music.
Yes, speak it into existence, and so shall it be.
Oh, shall it be?
Yes, yes. At the end of the day, when the curtain falls and you're done, the applause is gone, what does fulfillment look like?
I think I just want to be remembered. Put me in the books. I was here and I
Mm,
did this. And I feel like I've already left a mark. Just want to see how big a mark it can be. Like how many decades or centuries can I get them to keep talking about me?
I love that. I just say forever, you know? You've done something remarkable. So you're always just going to be remembered.
Thank you.
Okay, so now I want to do a quick round. First opera that made you fall in love with the art form.
Carmen,
Okay. Stage you dream of performing on.
Madison Square Garden.
Coffee or tea when you're in a creative mode.
Yeah.
Book that changed the way you think.
Outliers.
Okay, great book, great book. All right. The first time you felt truly seen as an artist.
December 8th, 2018.
Was that the day you went viral? Yeah, love it. Okay. Who would play you in the movie of your life? Because I think it's coming. There's a movie that's going to happen.
If it happens soon enough, Damson.
Okay, Idris. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. He's
Okay.
well, he's handsome enough.
I love it.
He has the cultural background necessary. And he's that like grown man charming with that young, like almost like boy-like charm.
Hmm.
Like he smiles, you can still see like the child is still alive in there. And I think
Yeah.
that'd be necessary. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I can see that. Okay. If you could teach the world one lesson through your music, what would it be?
that music is supposed to make people feel something,
What would they feel?
something.
Something. Okay. What have you had to unlearn or relearn in order to become the person you are today?
Oh. I had to learn the lesson that I want everyone to know is that the goal of music is to make people feel something. And I had to unlearn that good music was correct music. That no, that correct music is correct music, and good music is good music.
Hmm. I love that. What are you still becoming?
Myself. I feel like I'm still giving myself permission in certain ways to fully be myself. And it feels almost like an evolution.
Yeah, that resonates. Okay. What are you aspiring to in your personal life?
Be loved honestly and organically. Like to be in the right kind of garden for myself to thrive. So in my associations and relationships and my circles,
That you come as you are and as celebrated as you are.
and then be celebrated as I am.
Yeah, I love that. Okay. And what are you aspiring to in your professional life?
Remember when I said I was still growing into myself and letting
Yeah.
myself see? So I know the answer. It's just it feels like a lot to say to other people at this point, but I know how I feel. My goal is to change the world.
And you already are, and you will continue to do so. I mean, think it's a fact. I don't even think it's too much to say it's just a fact. But yeah.
Thank you.
And finally, if you could speak to the young person you once were, what would you want him to know? And who do you hope he becomes for the future that lies ahead?
I want him to know that he's fine and he's right and he's exactly who he's supposed to be and he's doing what he needs to do. He is right. He's got it. Keep going.
Mm.
And he's going to grow up into exactly who he wants to be. And I feel blessed for that. Like I realized that I think a year ago that I am who I wanted to be when I grew up.
I love that. Okay, very cool. All right, then. This has been really nourishing. And I know when I listen to this again while editing, I will love it even more. I think what you're doing in the world is brilliant. And I know the world will continue to hear you. So thank you for this work. And thank you for the affirmation that it provides with a lot of us and also the permission. So thank you. Really appreciate this.
No problem.
Thank you for spending time with us on Overnight Wisdom. If this conversation moved you, inspired you, or made you pause, please like, leave a comment, or share it with someone who needs to hear it. You can follow the show wherever you get your podcasts, and if you're feeling generous, a rating or review goes a long way in helping others find us too. Until next time, stay curious, stay tender, and may the wisdom you need find you exactly when you're ready.